You knew it was coming. You knew this was coming. Ow! Yeah, baby. Once a month, we get to do that. Happy full moon, everybody. Thomas Miller on the Fun Astrology Podcast, Tuesday, June 14th, and we've got one today, 7:52 a.m., at least if you're in Asheville, North Carolina, and it is in the sign of Sagittarius, 23 degrees, 25 minutes. Moon in Sag, Sun in Gemini. We posted a question over the weekend in Old Soul, New Soul Astrology with Robert from Ellie, a listener who was asking about what astrology software should I buy. And at the very end, she said that she's a skeptic and she's still trying to prove astrology wrong. We kind of played with that. And Robert said, well, if you ever figure it out, please send me an email. The conclusion was, don't wait up for it. Well, if you're still out there trying to prove astrology wrong, let me counteract your thesis and your argument a little bit here, because you're going to have a hard time explaining this one away. Well, I've mentioned this before, and one of the best financial resources that you can have, if you're looking for financial astrology, if you would like to tie the markets up above, the sky above, also to your portfolio, then you need to be a subscriber to the weekly newsletter by Ray Merriman. And it's MMAcycles.com. Merriman, Apple, cycles, like a bicycle or a motorcycle.com. Okay, I've totally botched that. You can find it. Search Ray Merriman Market on Google and you'll get it. When you go to that website, go to the top and there's a link to free weekly forecast. And the one for June 13th is exceptionally brilliant. See, Ray is another one like Steve Forrest or Robert Glasscock. He's a dean. He's been doing this forever. I think he first started publishing newsletters in the 1970s. All right, folks, that was 50 years ago. So he's been at this for a long, long time, has seen these cycles unfold, and what he writes about there is as great of a consensus of what's going on in the short term, connecting it back to history, and then projecting it out. So as I'm recording this, the markets have suffered an over 7% total drop in just 3 sessions. And what I really loved about what Ray pointed out here, and this was something that I had a guy who used to trade futures in Chicago told me this, that when these aspects hit, they are not necessarily an unfolding of the meaning of the, how you would cookbook interpret the aspect. In the markets, when we apply this to the markets, they are pivot points. Pivot points. And that's what Ray points out, at least on the short term. It's part about the short-term analysis, is we had Saturday's Venus-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. Venus ruling Taurus, money. We have a full moon today. So around all of that, the markets just completely dropped. And then when I go back and I put up the current transit chart, the United States Sibley chart, and the solar arc chart, our transiting sun is wedged in between solar arc Saturn, which is moving very, very slowly in solar arcs, 30 degrees per sign, is about to conjoin the United States Mars in 2024. Well, the sun is slipping in between that. I was wanting to look at the chart to see if there was anything that was relevant to kind of what was going on this past week, and I just closed the screen back down. I saw all I needed to see. And I know we've been talking about it on here, and I'm going to hold off today. I'm going to hold off one more day. But the stock market being a forward-looking entity, it is always projecting 6, 12, 18, even 24 months sometimes out. I don't need to say much more, really, do I? I mean, I could record dead air tomorrow and you should get the message. And around that full moon yesterday, I was really feeling it. I woke up feeling it. I texted a couple of people and just, trying to shake it off. And I didn't get to go out into my little nature walk until later in the afternoon. So it had to sit for a while and soak. And I'll tell you what, I'm feeling it too. I know you are. I texted my brother and said, it probably was to Noah's best interest to keep building the ark rather than arguing with God about what was about to happen. And I kind of think, using that story as an analogy, we probably had all better be building our ark rather than worrying about the details. So the key aspects on this full moon to keep in mind, it is sextile to Saturn, and Saturn is thus trined to the sun, just like it would be if we were on a nodal axis, because we're always, whenever you have that configuration, if there's a sextile to one, then there's a trine to the other. So the moon gets the sextile to Saturn, the sun gets the trine. That's a really good aspect for our poor Noah to be out there hammering and sawing on his ark. Oh, goodness. And then the other one is the T-square that we mentioned yesterday, the T-square to Neptune. Wow, that's exactly right there was why I woke up feeling this so heavily yesterday. It's the revelations. It's the feeling. It's the inspiration. It's the positive side of Neptune. It's not a negative thing. It's an intuitive prompt. It's an intuitive awareness. We are living in challenging times. And yesterday we talked about that with Mercury. Hello, Thomas, you need to listen to your own podcast. We talked about that with Mercury moving into Gemini yesterday. Talking about revelations or inspirations or knowledge or an awareness. Well, there it came through Neptune and this T-square, which I got to say came through very typical Neptunian and Piscean quiet inspiration. It was not screaming, it wasn't loud, it was subtle, but it was there. Now, with all of that, and the market being the main indicator of a over 7-point drop at one point, anybody still want to try to disprove this stuff? Didn't think so. Sending you all kinds of love. Go out there and make it a great full moon day. Celebrate. Do some releasing and let it go and let the emotions that are around it just observe and pass as they will. Thank you so much. We'll see you back tomorrow for Hump Day on the Fun Astrology Podcast.